So before I go into these disorders in detail, I'm just going to do an overview. Anxiety disorders, under that you have panic disorders and generalized anxiety disorders. Those two are pretty obvious. And then phobias, can cause a lot of anxiety. Obsessive compulsive disorder. So the compulsion actually, the act itself helps to relieve the anxiety. So that's an anxiety disorder as well. Post-traumatic stress disorder, and then there's medical conditions such as hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism that can induce anxiety, and then substances possibly such as like caffeine can induce anxiety, and then even withdrawing from a substance, as when you're withdrawing from like alcohol or cocaine, that can cause anxiety as well. So these are 7 items that basically are listed under anxiety disorders. And then the source is usually unknown or unrecognized. So like, for example, a phobia, someone might be scared of bridges, but the real reason why they're scared of bridges is unknown to them. But when they cross a bridge, that anxiety is very real. Okay? And know that anxiety is an emotional response. Okay? So I put a little heart up there just so for you to remember that it's an emotional response in anticipation of danger, anticipating that something bad is going to happen. So fear is a cognitive response, but anxiety is like a subjective emotional response. Okay? And then that flower up there is basically represents the brain. And I don't know if we're going to be testing on this, but I put a few up there that I thought might be helpful. I'm just going to go over a couple of them. So I don't know if this is going to help you, but it helps me. So let's say for this one here, A. A is for the amygdala, and that part of the brain is responsible for fear. So maybe if you could remember, like, A is the first letter in the alphabet, and fear is the first thing you feel when you start to feel anxious. Or A for like, I'm so scared. Okay, let's see. The hypothalamus, that one's a little bit more obvious. It activates the stress response. So the hypothalamus, sends the message to the pituitary, which sends a message to the adrenal cortex, which basically can produce the different stress hormones. Okay, and then the hippocampus. Just try to remember that an elephant has a really good memory, and hippopotamus is big like an elephant, and maybe it has a good memory too. But that part of the brain is basically responsible for memory of the fearful event. Okay, now I just put a few up there, but usually people with anxiety disorders, it's shown that they have increased level of norepi, and so these are a couple medications that are given to help people with anxiety disorders. So to help you remember, I put norepi there. Okay, so you know that it's an increased level of norepi, and that's why sometimes patients are given propranolol, which is a beta blocker. And then, and basically what beta blockers do is they block the beta receptors, especially for epinephrine and norepinephrine. So you can remember that. We give a drug to basically block the effect or reduce the effect of norepi. Okay, so they have an increased level of norepi. They have a decreased level of serotonin. So that makes sense, right? That patients are going to be prescribed antidepressants such as serotonin reuptake inhibitors, right? So that way more of the serotonin will be available. Okay, I was hoping that help you remember the actual neurotransmitter involved, and then also the drug that is prescribed. Okay, and then they have a decreased level of GABA, and we remember that from the last test, that patients with decreased level of GABA are susceptible to panic disorders, and that's why often benzos help, right? Benzos are prescribed because they increase the affinity of the GABA receptor for GABA. Okay, so hopefully that helps you memorize this.